Okay, well, Atsushi,
Yes.
you are a very prolific filmmaker, I have to say.
Okay.
And your first film, feature film, Echoes, completed in 2001, won quite a few prestigious awards and in film festivals and opened in New York City. A few years later, 2005, your documentary film, For a Joyful Moment of Life, won the Telly Awards. Is it in New York?
Yes.
Yes. And then a year later, 2006, your second feature film, Big River, big hit at the Busan Film Festival and in Berlin, where it was selected for the International Forum of New Cinema. A year later, 2007, your documentary, Perfumer's Laboratory and Step It Up, Stop the Global Warming, aired on TV, NHK in Japan. So you moved from New York to Tokyo,
Yeah.
essentially. 2 years later, 2009, you finished a feature film in Japan, Deep in the Valley. And then following the devastating tsunami in 2011, you made the documentary Nuclear Nation, released in 2012, 1 year after the tsunami.
Yeah.
And then after that, you finished another feature film, Cold Bloom, 2012. And last year, you completed Nuclear Nation 2. And this year, your newest documentary film, Raise Your Arm and Twist, documentary of NMB48, opens at the film festival.
Yeah.
So my first question is, do you have any time to sleep?
I slept 7 hours last night.
Oh, good, very good, because you finished a film, that's why.
Yeah, that's why.
Second question, you are one of the few filmmakers in the world who clearly very comfortable in making fictional film and documentary films. And the creative process of these two forms are actually quite different. One is based on creating kind of like a fictionalized world, whereas the other one is based on reality. So what is cinema to you then? And how do you depict a kind of a fair sense of reality in films?
I've been making documentaries and I've been making fiction films all the time, and I never felt uncomfortable doing either one. I always loved doing both, and I enjoy making fiction films, working with the actors, and also I enjoy actually going to the location with the small camera, with no crew, just only by myself, and then talk to the people and shoot there without any script, just play by ear and then fly on the wall. Then you just capture whatever you see. That's a documentary I shoot. And this is, I think, from the huge frustration I always have, which is from the system of the making documentaries or the system of making fiction films. Let me tell you more details. The system I mean is that when I make fictions, you have a bunch of actors, and you have assistant directors, and you have producers, and they tell you what to do this and do that. So the actors are more like, okay, I'm gonna show the really nice emotional acting, and then whenever I face with the actors and actresses in this movie making industry, sometimes I feel like I want to make a documentary of them. I don't want to make them read the lines on the script so they memorize everything, but that looked like horrible to me. Like that's already, the disaster to me. Or because they memorize everything and they try to do everything perfect, and then that looks really horrible. Like I really want to make them spontaneous. Say something they really came about this idea, then say whatever they think. So I really wanted to make a documentary about them. That's what I feel like on the set of making fiction films. Then on the contrary, on the set of a documentary, it's not the set, actually, on the location. You go there, and sometimes you have a crew, like you have a cameraman or, but a very few people, me and the cameraman and the sound person, 3 people maximum. Sometimes, most likely me. But when I see the documentaries, you see sometimes the documentary filmmakers go like, okay, this is the truth, true reality. So that's all it matters. So you don't really care about the framing or the beauty of the shot. You just show the truth. If that's a strong, then that makes a good documentary. But sometimes that frustrated me. You can make a really beautiful shot while you are showing the truth too. You can do both.
Reality can be beautiful too.
Yes, reality is beautiful too. So, but I see sometimes the documentary filmmakers don't really care about the composition of the shots. I do care about the composition of the shots, and then also the editing of the shots too. Like the cinema has got more than 100 years of history, and then there's a certain rhythm which is very comfortable to the audience, from a wide shot to the close-up, or close-up when go to the pan, then do this way, then go to the wide shot or something. There's some language. There's a film language, and there's a beauty of it. But sometimes in the documentary filmmaking, they don't really care about those beauty. Like they can just, if that's the truth, you can cut whatever you want, or even shaky camera. They don't really care. But I do care. I do care. I want to shoot a beautiful shot. I do care about the editing, the rhythm of the editing too. That's the kind of I think craft. It's a craft of filmmaking.
It's a craft, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm, yes.
So that's the frustration I had when I made a documentary. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to make something between. That's why I make documentaries too, and I make fictions too.
You kind of sandwich them.
Yes, I want to sandwich them, and then trying to find cinema in between. So that's cinema to me. Right. Something documentary-esque feeling on the set of fiction, and the beautiful shot on the set of the location of documentary. So
this is great, because I like to actually ask you about Nuclear Nation and Cold Bloom, because those 2 films were very close to each other.
Yes.
I mean, the production side.
Yes, because it's right after the March 11, both.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the documentary film and the fictional film, but both films deal with survivors of the tsunami. And how do they live with grief? What is the grieving process for them? Yeah. How did you... you probably have no difficulty in finding a common theme, right, but the treatment of the story would be very different, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I think it's. Can we watch now the films, and
sure,
then we can discuss about that, because I think it's much more accessible to talk about it after watching it.
After watching
so,
this,
so how about watching Nuclear Nation 1 first?
We can watch
two segments of Nuclear Nation. It's about 10 or 15 minutes. First we watch Nuclear Nation, then I'd like to show you the Cold Bloom after.
Yes.
So this is Nuclear Nation, and it was shot in 2011 and then finished on 2012. And what you saw is this inside Fukushima, there was a huge nuclear disaster. As you may know, this tsunami hit this area, then they lost the power. So at this nuclear power plant, there was a explosion, hydrogen explosion, and that spread the radiation all over the Fukushima, and it actually reached to Tokyo too. So this town of Futaba, they are ground zero town, which is like they have the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. So they are the closest to the power plant. So they have to evacuate. But they didn't evacuate somewhere close. They have to evacuate 250 kilometers away, which is almost Tokyo. Then they need to stay there. They actually, entire town moved into this abandoned school. It was a high school. And so everybody has to live there, and a classroom. And you remember there's an art room. So like every room has got a name. Art room, or teacher's room, or the music room, or so then every room has got maybe 20 to 30 residents in. So there's no privacy. It's that's the evacuation life, as refugees.
With so many residents, was it difficult for you to decide which family to follow?
So I'm always interested in depicting community. So I don't really make who I want to focus on, then who's gonna be the main character of the movie. When I try to make movies, I try to make the community. So how I thought about this movie was that how I can depict the community of this town. So I focused on the young people, or the one couple with the children. Then I chose one old couple, and I chose one person who's don't have any family, so a lonely person. So trying to make a balance.
And the mayor was very important.
And also the mayor.
Yes.
I chose the mayor of the town. So by choosing those limited numbers of people, I try to make this whole community. And then
a microcosm of the whole community.
Yes. Then this person, the Yuichi, is especially the one very emotional when he moved into this evacuation zone, which has the high radiation level. Because when tsunami hit, there are many people died. But at the same time, this nuclear disaster happened. So there's no rescue there, because rescue people couldn't come in. So there are lots of dead bodies left. And 1 month later, they have to come in with these white suits, and then rescue crew came in, and then they collected all those dead bodies. So there are lots of tragedy. There were lots of tragedy was there, and so Yuichi was this one of those people who hated this nuclear disaster, because if there were not nuclear disaster, he thought he could come in right away, right after the tsunami, so he could save his mom. But because of the disaster, he couldn't come in, so that's why his mother died.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about Cold Bloom. Cold Bloom is the feature film that you made right after the disaster. Do those two projects came in parallel ideas, or you were working on one and then writing the script for another? How did you work out those two projects?
To be honest with you, I was gonna make Cold Bloom when tsunami hit. Actually, it was 2 or 3 weeks before the actually first day of the production.
Wow.
So the entire production was halted, stopped. And then because you can imagine 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the production, that means you spend a lot of money already.
Yes.
You book the crew and the casting and the location and all the production crew. So actually we lost half of the budget.
Wow.
That was a disaster to us, actually.
Yes.
That's my March 11 disaster. I lost the film pretty much. So I have to give up the production of the film, actually, because we lost the location, which is the city. It's called Hitachi. That's northeast side of Japan. So that's where the tsunami really hit. So of course you cannot really shoot there anymore, because the real disaster happened over there. Then that's why I started shooting in Nuclear Nation. Then it took a year for me to finish the Nuclear Nation. Then while I was making Nuclear Nation, then there's another producer came up to me. You know what? I know you lost half of the budget, but we're gonna put another half of it so that we can make a movie.
He's
Then-
your angel.
Yeah, he was the angel. So then a year later, I made this movie called Broom, and this is you'll see. I made a different approach to the disaster.
Yes, it's more of a more personal approach.
Yes.
Yes, more personal approach. Yeah.
So it's a fiction film, and you can see it.
Okay,
right.
let's take a look at some clips. We're going to see one clip.
Yes.
Is that the beginning of the film, or?
Yeah, this is the pretty much towards the end of the film. Yeah, I have to explain what it is actually. The Cold Broom is a film about a woman who fall in love with the guy who killed her husband. So one day, her husband got killed because of some accident at the factory she's working for. And then, so she really hated this killer. But after the funeral and after, actually this killer guy was working for the same factory with her. So he was her colleague. And then little by little, she hated him and she wanted to kill him at the beginning. But little by little, the facts start to reveal, and which was pretty much the accident. It was not his will. And it was, caused by not his mistake, but the mistake of the organization of the factory, the management side. So, when the time passes, little by little, her hate starts changing, and she starts understanding. Actually, because of this accident, he's the one also suffering. So she shared the suffering with him. So little by little, she starts feeling a sympathy. So this hate she had starts to change little by little. So you'll see.
Yes.
And this is towards the end of the film.
Yes. And also you will see cherry blossom plays a very important part in this film too. It's also in Nuclear Nation too, the cherry blossom. Okay. So tell us, do you have common themes that you explore in all your films? Besides the cherry blossoms.
So I made this film. I wrote this script by myself, and trying to depict this emptiness people have felt after March 11, the tsunami and the nuclear disaster. There are lots of people who lost loved ones by tsunami, and then. I think the fiction is the media who you really need a distance from what's going on, and you have to make it abstractize, make it a little bit abstract. So if you try to show the drama, the family drama, who the loved ones got hit by the tsunami, and then people are really grieving from it, it's too direct. And just imagine there's a huge tsunami, or maybe let's say earthquake, and hit Hong Kong, and then the buildings collapsed and many people died. Then someone else came up to say, "Oh, look, we're going to make a movie about your father or mother." Then you must be very sad, and it's really it feels like sometimes insulting, because it's too close. So there are so many people who are really. If this huge magnitude of the disaster happened to you or your country, lots of people are still feeling grief. So it's very difficult to fictionalize it, because because number one, it's a money-making system. It's a capitalism. It's a movie. It's an industry. So people may say, okay, you're making money out of my grief or my tragedy that my family died, and also someone also may say. It's totally wrong. It's so, different from the reality. Many people would come and say so, and that happened in Japan too. Some filmmakers depicted a nuclear disaster or tsunami, and then if the directing is wrong, or actually this is the nature of the fiction. even like you say, for example, like you depict this person was a very gentle, nice guy, but then based on the reality, but someone may come up and say, oh, like I knew this person in real because I was a friend of him and he was not really nice, gentle like that, like he was very harsh to me, or, that could happen. So if the reality is too close, then to deal with the phenomena or the issue as the fiction become very difficult. So I would say the fiction needs a distance, and then
and
in a good way. So like when I made a Cold Broom, I thought it's the
sense of
many
loss.
Yes, sense of loss. Many Japanese people felt this sense of loss, and then many people were feeling this kind of huge hole, vanity inside their emotion. And I thought maybe like I can make a movie, people can feel this vanity and the hole in their heart. So I made this story about the woman who lost her husband, and then she doesn't know how to deal with this loss.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very hopeful film.
Yes. So like even you have a loss, you can feel the hope at the end. So that's how I took it. So like taking a distance from the reality, but still people can feel the sympathy with what's going on in the reality and what's going on inside the film.
I'm just going to ask one last question and then I'll open to the floor. And this is a selfish question.
Okay.
I have to confess, because you studied film at School of Visual Arts in New York, and I teach film here. So my question is, did you learn anything from your professors? I mean, if
That's
you
a good
didn't learn
question.
anything, it's okay.
I gotta be honest with you, I didn't know anything. No, actually, that's a joke. Actually, I learned a lot. One thing I learned a lot was that editing. My thesis advisor was an editor, and I made a feature film, which is gonna be shown later. It's called Echoes. It's a 72-minute film, and then it was supposed to be a 2-hour movie. And then when I put it together, it didn't work, and I didn't know why it didn't work. It's just I didn't know the reason. But one day he said, "Okay, cut this out." And then at the beginning, I thought, wow, you are crazy. Do you know like how many days I shot this scene and that scene? So like I was so close to the material, I couldn't have the objective view.
Yes.
And he did, and he said, cut this out. And then, nowadays you are not really editing on a Steam Deck on a 16. Now like you can work on Avid or Final Cut. And that was the early day, like when I made a student film, like it was 2001. And then that was the kind of shifting era from you edit on the film to the digital.
Digital, yes.
And then I was editing on Avid. That's a former style of the Final Cut. And then, so you can undo very easy, right? So like I just, as a test, I cut it all. Then I saw the movie on the big screen, and then as a test, and then I thought, wow. It's great. It looks fantastic, and so sometimes it's good. Like have someone else has got a objective view, and then give you some advice. Yeah.
And the experience.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to show a little bit of your thesis film? Let's take a look at a clip.
Sure.
How about that? Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Because as I said, this film. When it was completed, it won a few prestigious awards. And
Yes.
it actually opened theatrically in New York City.
Yes, in New York
which
and
is
Japan.
very rare for a student film.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so. So it's called Echoes. It's a road movie about this young girl living in the East Village. This pretty much hippie town back then in the late 1990s, and there's lots of rough people around in the area, as you know, like in New York.
Crack was there. Yes.
Yes, and this is about this girl who doesn't have the job or anything, so like she's stealing a lot of many things. And the first scene, like you saw, like she's stealing money. And one day she was stealing someone's purse at the club. Like when like she was dancing and the disco music, and she kind of stole a bag from one girl. Then within that girl bag, actually like, she found an old picture of herself with the person she doesn't know. And then that starts the mystery of her family secret, and which was that she had a sister which she didn't know, and she found this picture within this bag. So she tried to find the person who, from who like she stole the bag, but she thought that could be her sister or something, and so this becomes her road trip, and then she goes down from New York. This is a story taking place in New York, and she took a road trip down to the Virginia, which is the south side of the United States, and to meet her mother. And she actually escaped her home when she was a teenager, and she hates her mother, so there's a lot of family drama. But basically, her mother was hiding. She actually got married with someone else before, and she had another child, and so she had a sister, and so it's a kind of a road trip movie. She's like revealing the family history, and that was the story. And then it was shot in 20 days with the 60 millimeter, and with the 7 people crew, including me, and everyone was pretty much American students, and cast was American, and we didn't have any money. Like the budget was like $25,000. US dollars.
Was that enough just to purchase the film stock?
Actually, I had a little scholarship from the school, so they gave me the film stock, so that was good. But everyone's no pay and volunteer, and then we and including my girlfriend back then. Now she's my wife, but she was cooking. She was a craft service. And,
craft service.
Yes, she was making spaghetti every day for this 7 or 8 people crew, and then then actually I still remember the budget. The budget for the food of the crew, it's including the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then the budget for the one person per day is $1.
How can you manage? That's pretty good.
Right?
Yes, very good.
So if you have 7 to 8 people, then one day you have $8 a day. So she had to put together, she bought super cheap bread or the spaghetti and then cook together, and then you have to feed her breakfast and the lunch, and
that's why you married her.
Yeah. That's why. That's why I liked her a lot. And we also shot the films in the very rough neighborhood. So it was very dangerous sometimes, but also there are lots of homeless people there. Yeah. And there's one day we had a lunchtime and on the street, and we had this craft service, and my girlfriend was feeding, and then there's my crew was lining up, and then we're waiting, and then somehow there's the lines so long. And actually we don't know why, and then there are some homeless people that join in too, and then
you can use them as extras.
Yes, right. And there's a guy, I still remember the Max. He's so nice guy, and he did the sound and the boom, and he did everything. And he was so nice. So he was there's a homeless guy came over. So okay, go ahead, eat. And so he was the end of the line, and I was like, okay, Max, you have to eat. We have to shoot. And then I was yelling at him, but he was like, just let's feed them. So we had an extra long lunch break on that day.
So yes, we have some time, so please feel free to ask questions, especially if you have seen Atsushi's new film that was in the film festival. How many of you have seen the film? Yes, please. It's a very different film than the films that we have seen here, right? So Feel free to ask questions. Yes, please. Microphone? Okay.
Hello, okay. I actually have a question about the NMB48 film, which I saw yesterday and enjoyed very much. I wanted to know how you got the idea for the film and how you approached it, particularly since a different director did the documentary trilogy on AKB48 not too long ago.
I was not really interested in the idols at all. As you see, that I was shooting documentaries in Fukushima, pretty much. And then this Akimoto Yasushi, that's the producer, the mastermind of this AKB48 group, he's a producer. And also he's the songwriter of all the songs of AKB48 and NMB48. So this Nuclear Nation, my movie. And then that was back then, like at the early 2015, and then they are in the midst of discussion that they made 4 or 5 documentaries about AKB48 and SKE48. Then they want to make another one for the NMB48, but they all look same, you know. So they had a difficulty to differentiate. Okay, we gotta make it something different. So how can we do? You know, we gotta do something drastic. Maybe we have to have someone who doesn't have any idea about the idols and make him, you know, make a movie. That's why he approached me actually. So that's when this offer came to me. I was like, what? You know, because I don't even knew a name of a girl, one girl. I didn't know anyone. So actually, I didn't know anyone in the AKB48, or I didn't know anyone in the NMB48. So I was like, okay, you know, I have no idea what you're talking about, but if you agree with the idea, I will make a documentary from outsider's point of view and immersing into this community of idols. Because I like making a movies about the community. Not the focusing on one person, but making a big group of people. Like I made this Nuclear Nation. Then if you like this approach, then I would make a movie. Then he said, fine. So this is pretty much the biggest difference from other documentaries of AKB48 and other idol movies are that this is not for the idol geeks. It's for the first timer, for the outsiders. Yeah, so that's the approach I chose. Yeah.
Yes, another question? Okay.
Okay, I wanted to ask about also.
Can we turn on the lights of the audience so we can see them?
Yeah, about the yesterday movie that I have watched, because I have watched the Nuclear Nations before in HKIFF a few years before.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, so I feel it is a totally difference between that. I don't know. I cannot imagine a director who documented a tsunami than to the NMB48. Yes, but I really like that movie because it is for the first time. I'm the same of you because I don't know if anyone in the NMB48 also. But it is a very new image for me, for them, and also. But I have a question because this is really a totally different than before, and I want to know this, how to prepare this documentary, because when Akimoto-san to approach you and said that, okay, you have the full direction and full editing to edit the documentary, how to prepare, how many days with you prepare to with them, and how to choose, because you have, I think it's 4 or 5 main character inside, and the captains, vice captain, and also some losers or some as in competitions. Then how to choose which girls you want to be, even you wanted to have the community, there's some main character inside. So how to choose it, or how many films, how many hours you filmed it, but then you choose those girls as your.
I see.
Inside.
How can I start? you know, like I shot 300 hours of the film. And then also the AKB48 have all the footage from the previous years. Like they had 1,200 hours of footage. Because like, this was the 5th year of them, and I shot the 8 months. I went there to the Osaka. You know, I live in Tokyo, and then Tokyo and Osaka are 500 kilometer away. So I had to take a bullet train to go to Osaka, and then I went there 10 times a month. So like once in a 3 days or something. I had to commute to the Osaka and shoot there, then come back to the Tokyo, and. Since like you, many of you are film students, I think maybe I'm going to talk about the production side. When I make a new film or new genre film, I try to put myself in the situation that I can make mistakes. You know, I try to have an allowance. I try to have extra time so that I can make mistakes and I can change a little bit. So what I did is that I said, okay, we're gonna have an 8-month shoot, but I'm gonna start editing maybe after 2 months. So I'm gonna be editing and shooting, you know, at the same time. So I have in that case, then I have you know, 6 months of editing. Usually, like the documentaries of this, sometimes like a producer would say, okay, you have just 2 months or 3 months to edit, and you gotta finish it. Then I thought, you know, I cannot do it because I have no idea what I'm gonna do, and I need a time to figure out. So that's why, like I said, we're gonna be shooting, but we're gonna start editing early. But instead, it's you know, of course, it's gonna cost. So, you know, because okay, you have to pay to the editor, and you have to book the editing room, and that's gonna cost the money. So I said, okay, I'm gonna edit by myself at the beginning. So you don't need to pay for the 6 months the editing room, and then, you know, for the editor. But then the last extensive period, like the last 2 months was, and then 1 month for the post-production, the color correcting, and then sound mix. Then I have professionals, the editors, and professional color collector, colorist, and sound mixers. So in that way, I have time for me to figure out first 4 months and edit by myself. And for, you know, on the same token, I did for the shooting. For the Nuclear Nation, I shot by myself, and then I talked to the producer of this NMB48. At the beginning, first 2 months, I'm gonna shoot by myself. Then after that, I'm gonna start hiring the camera guy, and then we're gonna start shooting. And because from the experience with Nuclear Nation, I know I'm okay cameraman. You know, I'm not super good. You know, like I think it's the professional camera guy is much better. But also from the experience, I know at the beginning you don't know what you're doing. You are figuring out. You are like looking around, and you really don't. You have no idea what you're doing. So most likely you're not going to use it anyway. So it's so stupid to spend the money for the camera at the beginning. So it's much better you just do by yourself at the beginning, and you look around and you shoot a bunch of stuff. Anyway, you're not going to use it because you have no idea what you're doing. Then after 3 months or 4 months, then you start knowing, this girl would be interesting, that girl is interesting. So you little by little you have a focus. Then that's when like you're gonna bring the cameraman, then say shoot that and shoot that, then you can direct it. So I think for me, the very important thing about the documentary filmmaking is that the scheduling. You make a schedule that allow you mistakes. So you have a time to figure out. You don't really need to, okay, you have to get the super beautiful shot right now, but no, that's not gonna happen. You know, so it takes time.
It's sort of like part research and part exploring the themes and the characters and trying to find what is the story you want to tell.
Yeah, I always feel like it's that process I do for the fiction film is when I'm writing. You can spend a lot of time in writing, and you're trying to figure out what you really want to do in the film, and that's a research and having a different draft.
Yes.
And then documentary filmmaking, it's when you're shooting, you are doing a research and making many drafts. So it's a writing process actually.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny, a lot of the projects you work on, after a little while, the project takes on a life of its own.
Right.
And then you feel like the project is talking to you now, it's a life. And then
Right.
it will lead you to certain direction
Right,
in a
yeah.
way, right? So the first couple of months is that time for you to get really, to get the project to come alive
Yeah,
in
come
a way.
to life.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
I think so.
Okay. I hope that answered your question. Yes. Okay.
How
Yes.
about like it's showing a little bit of, because like maybe like
Yes.
for the people not seeing the film at all, is like don't have any idea what we did. Maybe
Right.
we can
We'll
show
show-
like a
we'll show
first
a clip.
2 minutes of maybe first 5 minutes. I can say stop, but we can say a little bit of an NMB48 documentary then. So this looks like totally different from other movies I did, but actually one thing in common is you are shooting a community of the people. So usually other documentary of this AKB48, like you focus on the popular girls, who's the cutest or beautiful or those sexy. But actually what we focused on is the girls at the bottom, who are deciding to quit or leave, and what's going to happen to them. So we try to show the girls on the top, girls at the bottom, who's on the verge of quitting, or who are coming to the next ace, or the second place or third place. So you can see the kind of dynamics of the community.
You also follow one girl where you actually see her family.
Yes.
I remember, yes.
Yes,
right.
family
So-
side is
yes.
was very important, because you actually see how much they are really sacrificing. It's very intense, world, intense industry. So
Also very competitive. too,
very
right?
competitive. So you have
Yeah.
to sacrifice many things. You can't go to school much,
Yeah,
and actually, they are forbidden to have boyfriends.
yes. One of the girls actually in NFB was kicked out because she had a boyfriend.
Yes.
Right, yes, right. Anyway, okay, another question there.
Sorry, back to the topics about the nuclear weapon. No, nuclear weapon, nuclear nation. Japanese original title is Futaba kara toku hanarete. It means keeping away, far from Futaba. But the English title is the nuclear nation. Totally different, no? And I feel, in my impression, titled nuclear nation contains your opinion or anger towards our Japanese government. So how and why you hit up on the English title?
Actually, like I came with the English title first. When this disaster happened, I thought that Japan is a nuclear nation, pretty much, because they suffered from Hiroshima, Nagasaki, now Fukushima, and then you have radiation all over the nation. So I thought it's maybe, this is a nuclear nation. That's the title I came about, like from the very beginning of the production. Then I went to the Berlinale, the Berlin Film Festival, and we had a world premiere. Then I was going to show this film in Japan, saying a nuclear nation. Then some people say, the Japanese people are so bad with English, so when you say nuclear nation in Japanese, then, in an English accent, they don't get it. They don't understand it. So I tried to come up with the Japanese translation. But when you translate word by word, you say kaku no kuni in Japanese, meaning nuclear nation, then it doesn't sound juicy either. So I have to come up with a different name, for Hollywood films, actually that happens all the time. You have a different title in Japanese. So I'm pretty sure like the same in here too, in Hong Kong and China too. So that's why like we had different names. And then futaba kara toku hanarete in Japanese it means far from Futaba. It means that the people from Futaba town evacuated their home far away to Tokyo, and also it has a double meanings. The Tokyo people actually used all the electricity from Fukushima. So it has a double meaning. Like it's And I thought it works to the Japanese audience better than saying a nuclear nation.
Yeah, Atsushi has some problem with his contact lens because the air is different here in Hong Kong than in Japan. It's probably too humid or something. So maybe how about if we have one more question? I'm sorry, one more question? Yes?
Thank you. I actually went to see a film last night, but I'm not going to ask about just like with itself. I usually would like to know, like for you as a director, when you're going to film in like a documentary, a lot of people, especially probably Japanese, but I couldn't speak for them, that when they're in camera, they may not be too true to themselves or not to speak about the actual facts or something. How do you, how would you approach them in a way that they would actually tell the actual threat or tell the thing that would...
Are you talking about the NMB48 documentary or generally speaking?
Generally speaking, especially in this film, because there's so many different people and also a lot of things that were told in the film itself could be affecting their career in some way. Like how would that turn out? Like especially like the last scene in the movie that could do a lot of impact to that girl, right? For example, how do you approach that?
You have to gain their trust first. But I think that sounds really kind of right. But to be honest, actually, you just let them ignore us. You make the situation that the camera is around all the time, so they don't really care. So you make that kind of a condition. So first they say, oh, there's a camera, we have to show something really nice to them, then it's going to be on the film. But like if you are there every day, they don't really care, So that's when they actually bring down their guard, and they are much less protective, and they show their own, themselves, and then that's when I start rolling the camera actually. So I don't really roll the camera, but even like I'm not rolling the camera, I have the camera here. So they know there's a camera, and then whenever I feel like it, I just roll it. But most of the time, like it's actually I have the camera to make themselves comfortable with the presence of the camera, and then they ignore us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for taking time to come to Hong Kong. You is very far away from the film festival, and so will your film be showing again?
Yes, on April 3rd and 4th. There are twice, and then those girls are coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you
they
want
will
to
be coming.
Yeah, they are coming to the show. Like it's for the premiere.
For the premiere, so
please come over. I think it's watching them much better than watching me. So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you.